Hi, I'm Adam and welcome to First Man Photography. If you love landscape photography, then you are in the right place. Today I'm in the Lake District again and I've come to the Langdale Pikes, finally, in the beautiful, beautiful sunshine. So I'd really like it if you were to all come with me. Okay, so I'm set up for my first shot of the day and it's just a nice little shot to get me going, but I think it's going to be pretty effective. I've come up a little way. I'm actually set up down there a bit because I didn't want the sounds of the waterfalls to interfere with this, but there've been loads of waterfalls all the way up this mountain so far, and I'm not really one for waterfall shots. I don't really like them. I take them now and again just to have a few in the portfolio, but I'm not really a massive fan. What I am a massive fan of though is the big vistas, and I've got one behind me now. As I've been walking up, I've just come across where all these waterfalls hit a flatter bit of land. They're creating these pools of water, which are just really making an interesting foreground for an image. And that's what I'm aiming for here. Down in this little pool here, I've got the camera set up. The composition I've got is just using one of the pools with a little bit of water running into it, and then a little pool lower down, and then there's just a little ledge before we go off into that view behind me there. It's interesting as well because with the polarizer on today, with the clouds and the blue sky, it's just creating that really nice oversaturated blue colour, and that's what I'm going for today. Really nice sunny shots. There are clouds coming over and I don't really want any shadows cast down into the valley or onto the mountains behind me, so I'm just waiting for the right moment for the sun to come good and just light up the whole landscape. Got a nice little feature of being able to fire the camera with my phone here, so I'm just waiting for the right moment. I also have a 6-stop filter on, combined with the circular polarizer. If I'm at ISO 100, that's creating about an 8-second exposure, but that's not what I want because it's putting too much movement into the clouds, and the clouds look nice as they are. So all I've done is just up the ISO to 500. So I'm at f16 because the rocks are quite close, the background's quite far away, and then I've got a shutter speed of 2 seconds, which just smooths out the water, but still leaves the clouds nice and sharp. And ISO 500 is letting me do that. So it's a bit different because we're so used to shooting at ISO 100. So it's about using those settings creatively to really make the image work in the way you want it. The relationship between foreground and sky and background and all that sort of things, you can affect them differently sometimes using the camera settings, and that's exactly what I've done here. I've still got a bit of a shadow on the mountain behind me, but I'm going to fire an image off now. There we go. And another classic Lake District scene. I've just stopped for a little rest while I'm capturing that time lapse. If you saw the last video, here I am sitting on a rock with sleeves rolled up on a fell in the sunshine, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I just thought I'd take a little moment just to say thank you to you, everybody that made a comment on that last video, of comments of support, of advice, of insight. I'm very, 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 very grateful. It means a lot. If there's one thing you could do for me as well, please do share these videos if you enjoy them, because that really helps me out. That helps me to grow, keeps me making these videos as well. So that would be much appreciated too, but thanks. Right, with that out of the way, I just want to take you up here a minute and into the wind a bit. This here behind me is PVR. Believe it or not, there is a path that goes up that cliff, and I'm not going to be going up that today. I do want to get to the top of there today, but there's a much easier path around it, and that is Stickle Tarn behind me. So I want to try and get back here for about sunset tonight, and I'm just at the moment having a little explore around to try and find a good composition, so when time is tight around the sunset later, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I think I'm going to have to get a little bit more elevation to look down on the tarn. Look at these sheep as well. I'm getting right in my time lapse. So I'm at the top of the Langdale Pike and it's just absolutely stunning up here. It's windy, really windy, and I'm also probably a bit too high to capture the really nice shots. Whew, yes, happy to be at the top though. Happy to be at the top. So I'm down from the top and I'm in probably the last position I'm going to be in today, but it really is a spectacular one. Just look at this spot. I've got 2 shots planned from this very spot. I have this one here, which is a pavey arc, and the tarn there. Bit of a reference shot, bit of a scouting shot. It'll be better as a sunrise, but I'm going to still try and make something of it by using the camera settings creatively. But if I turn around, which is going to be hopefully my last shot of the day, I have these mountains here and they're just looking absolutely spectacular as that golden light is hitting them. 2 shots, 1 location. I'm hoping it'll come really good. Right, so for the first shot, I'm going to take 2 shots, in fact, of the tarn here. And the reason is I wanted to try 2 different things. I wanted to do a panorama and I wanted to try just a basic wide angle shot. I'm going to use the camera settings in different ways to make the 2 things work. And one of the ways is to just increase the shutter speed and the ISO a little bit in order to be able to shoot handheld. And I'm also reducing the aperture. I'm making the aperture bigger as well to allow me to handhold. So when you're shooting handheld for a landscape that's not moving, 1/125th of a second is going to be enough if you've got a fairly steady hand. You then just need to balance out the exposure to get that shutter speed. You can use shutter priority mode. I like to do everything in manual because I think it's a better way of shooting. You learn more and the camera just becomes an extension of you, and that's what I've talked about before. Handheld panoramas, I think, are underused. Handheld landscapes are underused, and it's not something we've talked about on these vlogs very often. If you do want to see me do a video with handheld photography, please let me know down in the comments and I'll sort something out about that. But for this one, it's just a case of doing a panorama and panning round, so it's nice and easy. Like I said, it's just a reference shot, just a documentary shot for me, so I don't really want it to be too complicated. On the settings, I've got 1/125th of a second, like I said. I've got f5.6, which is still enough because what I'm shooting is fairly far away from me. There's nothing particularly close in the foreground. And then I'm at ISO 160. I might have to boost that to 200 or 250 as it's starting to get a little bit darker. Then it's just a case of taking the shot, and I'm zoomed into about 40mm, and then you want to turn your camera to vertical mode and then just pan around, cutting a third in to the shot. And you might end up with a scene like this. I'm probably going to end up with about 15 shots. So I'm going to shoot that now. It's just a case of composing all around, just make sure I've got that motion, and then start to shoot like this. 1, 2, and so on, and so on. And that's just a nice way to use the camera settings a bit differently, just to give you that extra shutter speed to let you shoot handheld. That's the panorama. Now let's get set up and I'll do a wide angle shot, which will be slightly different. Right, so second shot, I've got the camera on the tripod and I've got the wide angle lens on there, the 17 to 40mm, and I'm as far wide as I can go at 17mm. And the reason for that is because I just want to get as much of this scene in as I can. I've got pavey arc, which is the main sort of interest in the image because it's just such a striking cliff. And then I'm using some of the rocks in front of the tripod here as a bit of foreground interest, and then the tarn in there as well. Now, settings wise, what I'm doing this time is using the settings to create a long exposure. I talk about long exposure a lot. I did a video all about it the other week, which you may enjoy, and it's just something that I absolutely love to do because I just love the ethereal images that it can create. Today, however, there is barely a cloud in the sky now, so it's going to have very limited use for me, but it's the subtle things sometimes that really make the difference to our images. And what I'm going to use it for is just to extend the exposure time a little bit, to put some movement in that water, which will just smooth it out really nicely because it's a bit windy at the moment and there are quite a few subtle waves which don't particularly enhance the image at the moment. So I want to smooth those out. And to do that, I have put a 6-stop ND filter on the front of the lens, and lets me just extend that time a little bit. What that's extended it to is about 10 seconds. I'm at f16 just to get it up to that 10 seconds, and I'm at ISO 100. Bring that ISO down to extend that exposure time as long as possible. That's it really, let's just shoot that shot. Okay, last shot of the day. And I just really want to make some use of that really, really spectacular light on those fells behind me there. The thing is, when you are shooting in the mountains, you do always have a bit of a problem when the sun starts to set, one mountain blocks the light out or blocks the light off another mountain, and then you start to lose interest, or you get some really strong contrast lines that don't always look particularly good. So I'm just looking over there at the moment and just basically hunting out the light. I've taken a few images. I've settled, probably my favorite now is what I've settled on with this image here. I've got the 70 to 200 on there, and I'm zooming right into 200 on that little spot of light that kind of leads you up that little ridge of the mountain. Then that bigger mountain behind it is still bathed in that sunlight. I've gone vertical to get as much of that in as possible, and settings wise, well, to be honest, there's nothing particularly special about the settings on this shot, but that is still a creative use of settings. The normal landscape photography settings, ISO 100. I'm at f8 because I'm getting maximum sharpness out of the lens and everything I'm shooting is very far away from me. And then just balancing that exposure out, hopefully in manual mode, with the shutter speed. And at the moment, I'm at 1/15 of a second. So I've got the 2-second timer set. I'm just going to take that image and see what that looks like. Using different camera settings can create different creative results. You really want to be using those camera settings to match the creative vision that you have in your mind for the image. And if you understand your camera settings and you're shooting manual and the camera becomes an extension of your arm, then that should just become second nature, thinking what settings you need and why you want to change them, why you might go up on the ISO, why you might not, why you might extend an exposure, why you might not. I have a video that will help you. It's called Conquering the Camera Settings. I'll put that up whichever side it goes at, and you can watch that at your leisure as well. But I think you will enjoy that one. It has been very helpful to many, many people. Anyway, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Please share the video like I asked earlier. It really, really does help me out, helps me grow, and helps me keep on creating these videos for you. But I've had a great day. It's been so good to get back into the mountains on a nice sunny day. I don't even care that there's no clouds in the sky, really. It's just spectacular being here. I feel really good. And I don't even mind a little walk back down in the dark. So I'll see you on another one very, very soon. I'm Adam. This is First Man Photography. And I'm gonna just run onto this little ledge here because it's just absolutely stunning. Out.